Hi everyone, welcome to another Escapeman show, and we're going to be talking about aviation watches today. And yeah, JCB, do you want to start us off with a bit of?
Yeah, cool. Hey everyone. Good to see you all. Hello, everyone in the chat and whoever's joining us in the future as well. Quick wristwatch check though. Since we're talking aviation pilots watches, I'm wearing a GMT today. What do you guys got on?
I've got nothing on. I will put something on. I will put something on.
Get the hell out of here. Get out of here.
I got a couple. I've got Sorry, Abdul. You carry on.
I was just nodding my head against Y2K because he's not wearing a watch.
I'm naked today. No watch. I'll put something on. I'll put something on.
I've got an Omega 1953.
Oh yeah.
Which was a watch commissioned by the Ministry of Defence in 1952 for the RAF, and made for 1 year during 1953 for the RAF. And I've also got a Seiko 7A28-7120, which is a helicopter pilot's from the 90s, a helicopter pilot's chronograph, which is a quote.
That watch, man.
They're really nice.
Such a cool watch. Do you know that those watches are really expensive now, Thomas? Did you know that?
Yeah, they're about £700 or so.
But more than that, man. More than that.
Really?
On eBay, in Aussie, they're selling for about $3,000.
You're joking.
Wow.
Nah. That's Aussie, so I don't know. Do the conversion to pound. I don't know. Maybe like £1,200 or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but yeah, those Seiko 7A, the 7A28 series, and particularly those RAF edition ones, are fetching big money in the vintage Seiko collector scene. They're onto it.
Wow.
What do you got on, Abdul?
I have my Zodiac.
Yeah. Nice.
I've been wearing it almost constantly the past couple of weeks. I tried this time on vacation only to take less watches, but to take more straps but I can't just go out of this paratrooper. I wake up and I put it on, and it's so much easy to just wear and hi Mason, Kevin.
Yeah, just say hi to Mason 1 and good morning, Kevin Hawthorne. Good to see you as always, my friend.
Buddy, yep.
And what's Mason got to say? He has three aviation watches to choose from: the good old Breitling Navitimer, the Zin EZM 3F, and the aviation-inspired Moser Heritage Center Seconds.
Yeah,
Love
nice.
that Moser, Mason. Love it. And the EZM 3F, beautiful. And I'm going to be doing a little bit more on Navitimers later on in the stream. So, stay fixed for that.
I'll bring up this. So we're talking today about aviation / pilots watches, right? And I think it's a really interesting topic because you've got. I was thinking about what is a pilot's watch. You know, like what makes a pilot's watch or an aviation piece. And you know, traditionally we think of watches like the one that you have, Thomas, that Omega. You know, that sort of, you know, that Dirty Dozen type of looking piece, that three-hander. But then you've got things like this. Like I've just found this article, and you can see in the picture there the different styles. So you've got like a Navitimer, Then you've got like a Patek travel time GMT. You got a flyback chronograph with the IWC here. You've got just a 3-hander. So it's an interesting category. Let's sort of start here. So you have a look at the Mark 18. It's just a 3-hander, right?
Yeah, we'll go through some of that. I think some of what defines a pilot's watch is hey, we've got a good friend ID guy. Good to see him.
ID guy.
Yeah.
ID guy, welcome.
And Russell, good to see you, Russell.
Hey, Russ.
Yeah, I think there are many things that are needed in a pilot's watch. It depends on what's been required. I mean, there's chronographs, there's GMT hands, the GMT function, which was designed for pilots to navigate for 3 time registers. There's the rotating bezel of the Navitimer, which was designed to gauge fuel.
You can do heaps of things actually with this, with the slide rule bezel. There's lots of calculations.
Lots of calculations you can do, exactly, and to do a yeah.
And then look at this guy. Yeah, then you've got the pilot Calatrava from Patek, and then this is the first actual pilot's watch, the Santos, as we know. So I think it's just an interesting thing, and I think you're right, Thomas, where it probably comes down to the spec, because they had, the military or the Navy or the Air Force or whoever it was had a particular spec, that they had to have, and we all know that the Type 20 obviously is one of the key ones there, having a flyback chronograph, issued by the French Air Force. So, but one thing I've sort of found generally in common is the legibility. So you've got a black dial, you've got the Arabics. Generally, you've got these Arabic numerals, and you've just got white print on the dial.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really deviate.
Yeah, I think the loom. Yeah. Because you have to think about it. You're flying somewhere in the cockpit, and you need to know the time in a glance in suboptimal, let's say, lighting situation. So the loom is optimus important. The dial has to be clean enough that you can read the time just by glance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Legibility, like you said, and all the other function that we were discussing before is just add-ons, like you were saying. Okay, we need. I'm a private jet pilot that needs to calculate the amount of fuel I would use, or the flight time, or I'm a commercial pilot. I need to, let's say, have 2 time zones: my home time and the time zone of the city I'm visiting. So there's a lot of, let's say, complications for each function. But I think like the IWC is for me the classical Flieger, because it has this dial combination with a case that's just so legible and so recognizable as a pilot's watch anywhere.
Yeah. So we'll crack on with some, shall we?
Let's do it.
Well, I have put on the watch now.
That's a 50mm.
This is let me just get the lights on. So while
That's a very legible
this is
watch.
the Panis 50mm, I think. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, you'll often find Fliegers. You'll often find pilots' watches are very large. Sort of 50 mils or going back to 55 mils with the World War watches, the Luftwaffe war. The big watches, strap-on watches. But we'll just start. We'll start with an early one. I mean, we go to the Santos de Monts. In 1904, Louis Cartier granted the wish of his friend, the famous Brazilian aviator Albert Santos de Monts, to be able to tell the time while flying his plane. And this was the birth of one of the first commercial wristwatches, featuring a geometric shape and exposed screws. And the watch soon became one of Cartier's iconic watches. And this is the Santos de Monts extra large model. And yeah, so 1904. And one of the first pilot's watches, very legible, as you can see. But 1904, I mean, we're talking early days. One of the iconic watches, and yeah, an interesting one.
I think that's really the first one that that has like the guidelines, the starting of the guidelines, legibility. So that's the first priority for having a watch while you're operating some kind of flying, let's say, vehicle. But I think it was maybe balloons at that time, right? For Santos de Monts. I don't remember exactly the story, but didn't he ask Cartier to make them to make him a watch? Because every time, let's say, airship, thanks Brian, his pocket watch fell down from his balloon or airship. That's why he wanted a wristwatch, so it doesn't fall down again.
Yeah,
you guys know the story before. I don't remember the exact details, but that's the gist of it, maybe.
Yeah, and just going back to what we were saying earlier on, Mason is pointing out again that they fall into several categories: Fliegers, GMT, UTCs, calculators, flying chronographs, and world time travel watches. Yeah, good point, Mason.
Yeah.
So back on.
You want to be a pilot, not a diver. If you're a diver, you only get to choose like one type of watch. You can only have a diver. But if you're a pilot, you get all these different categories of watches.
A bigger variety of watches.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So that's the Santos. And then we move on. That was the first sort of it was a pilot's watch made for a pilot. I don't know whether it was how the design came into it, but next we move on to LARCO and their Friedrichshafen, which is 45 millimeters. And LARCO pilot's watches are authentic reconstructions of observation watches, which is also another name for pilot's watches, from the 40s. At that time, 5 companies were given permission to build pilot's watches for the RLM, which is the Reichsratsministerium. Sorry if I butchered that name. Jonathan Quell-Higgins will kill me for that. Which is the former German Ministry for Aviation. The 5 brands were IWC, LARCO, Lange, Stover, and Vempe. And Flieger watches were 55 millimeters and were used as navigational instruments. The model here is a B-Uhr, or Type B Flieger. B-Uhr is a reference to the German word Beobachtungs, and has an inner hour circle, outer minute track, and has a matte surface to avoid reflections in the cockpit, and has optimal readability by day and night. The easy grip crown is also made it possible to adjust and wind the watch with gloves, and the rivets on the leather strap were used to secure the strap to fixed bars in the past, and now using spring bars there just for decoration. But this is a really nice watch, as you can see here. I think the picture above is a bit better. But you can see that inner hour track and the outer minute track.
Yeah, this is your sort of typical Flieger that you think of, right? Yeah, one of the categories of pilot watches, the Flieger, being one of those archetypical types of pilot watches that you think of. Yeah, I'm not into these, to be honest with you. I just would never wear one. I just find them too they're such a tool, it's such an instrument. Yeah, that's my take on these ones.
Yeah, just drop the link for your ID guy. You're welcome to come on, my friend. It'd be great to have you on. Yeah, you're not a fan of these, JCB.
Yeah, just because it's such a tool watch, you know, and I'm not really a tool watch person. That's not my thing. I get how people like tool watches and they get it, they're into that. It's just not for me, that's all.
Yeah, what about you, Abdul?
I like them, but I'm not a big fan of wearing them, let's say. The Friedrichshafen looks like a really nice model. The whole idea about the Beobachtungsuhr, that it's really legible. So it's, in a night situation, you'd be able to see what time it is. That's why the big dial, the big numerals. But I'm a big fan of more cleaner dials, and let's say this would be too busy for me. I like the idea. I'd really like Flieger watches, especially Zinn. Big fan of Zinn Flieger watches. They have really nice Flieger chronographs. I had one, the 356, and the 103. It's a diver, but it could be also used as a Flieger actually. But other than that, I'm not a big. Let's say I wouldn't wear one.
But this would be very practical in a flight scenario for a pilot. You know, being able to see the little hand, define the little hand and the big hand at a glance, and see the hours and the minutes, and
exactly
be able to define the two. You know, between a glance quickly and on a big watch, and see something that was 55 millimeters, and to be able to see that.
Imagine in a war situation where you have to coordinate an attack, or let's say get cover at a certain point of time, and everybody's wearing the same watch, syncing it at the same time. They would have a massive advantage to other, let's say, forces that are not syncing their watches together, don't have the same watch. So uniformity in having the same watch, and that's why these watches came to life back then from all these German companies, to have this synchronicity in uniform and, let's say, military tactics.
Sure. So move on to another of the famous brands that made watches that I mentioned, and that's Stover, and this is a Stover Flieger, Type A Flieger, one from the other 5 brands that made watches for the German Ministry of Aviation. Stover makes a great example of the classic Flieger style pilot watch, much like the IWC pilot's watches. This one, the utilitarian military design has been slightly tweaked on this model to offer a more refined watch, which still feels like a pilot's watch, but also features a date for the daily wear at 6 o'clock. And yeah, get a better picture. So do you prefer this look more, JCB?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this one I can get down with for sure, especially with that blue sunburst dial. That really just changes the game, really. If it just had a plain black dial, nah, I probably wouldn't wear it, to be honest. But that's just me, like it's just a bit plain for me. But with that dial is the star there, definitely looks cool. Yeah, it's amazing how much a change that dial can make to a watch, huh?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this dial as well. I even like it without the date, to be honest. Just the pure sunburst blue, maybe sandwich dial or raised loom on the numeral. So they have like this 3D effect, a big loom, chunk of loom on the dial. And that would be my favorite shape of and look of a Flieger. Maybe in 40 millimeter size, because most of them are 43 and above.
Yeah,
I know Y2K would love the big sizes.
This one is a 40 mil, so yeah, this one's gone back to modern sizes, so it's a modern reproduction. Yeah, so it's in 40 mil. This one.
I think it's great they give us Type A and Type B choices for aviation watches, and I think the choices where people choose between the Type A or B is also based on the character. Sometimes pilots do like. Some people do like complication, which they like the dial busy. I'm one who likes the dial busy, but I'm glad I can take both simple dial and complex dial at the same time.
Bryant is very much a man's watch, not especially unisex at all, are they? Yeah, I don't know, Brian. What do you think, guys? Could you see a lady wearing a Flieger?
Probably not, to be honest. Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah,
Good point.
yeah,
Why?
yeah, yeah.
It's got to do with, I think, they're just because that what I was saying before. It's very much a tool. It's very much a utilitarian-looking piece, and as we know, the ladies like to jazz it up a little bit. And when they're wearing men's watches, they tend to like a bit of bling, like they'll wear a Daytona or a Submariner or something like that. I don't think the ladies would really go for this type of thing.
Yeah.
It's a bit difficult because I think the size of the watch matters. Will play the context.
100%.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But the simplicity of the dial, maybe they may be interested.
Yeah, but I mean, these things were designed for men
Maybe the Domain.
that were flying aeroplanes.
Sure.
You know, that's why they're big
The
and that's
first
what they
one.
look like this. So, yeah. I've seen a few ladies wearing a lot. I see ladies wearing Rolex a lot, but I've never seen ladies wearing like an IWC Big Pilot or something like that. Yeah, they tend to stick to Rolex if they're going to wear a man's watch, from what I've seen anyway.
Yeah, talking about the IWC Big Pilot, we showed it on last week's show, well, the other week's show, and the last show, and I thought I'd bring up this one, which is the IWC Big Pilot Spitfire. The first IWC pilot's watches were made in the 1930s for civil aviation purposes, and it was robust, resistant to fluctuations in temperature, and was also anti-magnetic. The Big Pilot Spitfire features a military aesthetic and has a classic grey titanium case and big crown, and in the design of historic observation watches. Throughout its history, IWC has made numerous mil-spec watches for different branches of the British military, and these had precision movements, were rugged, and had functional design with easy legibility dials. The Spitfire pilot's watches reflect this chapter and the brand's history, and the design of the black dial was inspired by historical observation watches, which are another name for pilot's watches. Only the minutes and seconds are printed in white on the outer ring, while the hours appear smaller in a more discreet grey print on the inner circle. The layout made it easier for pilots and navigators to read the minutes and seconds just at a glance. And this again is going back to the sort of Type B look. So it's
yeah, for sure. But it's done a lot more. It's done a lot more subtle and not as in your face as the other Type B that we saw before, which was really, it was very busy on the dial. This one, it's a lot more. The dial is a lot more open, and the hour inner ring is in a like a grey color as compared to the white numerals on the minute. So it's just softens it up visually. It's not as harsh on your eyes, which is really cool, I think. Yeah, I like it.
While we're at it, let's welcome.
Great panel.
Guy.
Yeah, it was just one of those.
How are you doing?
Very good. How you gents doing? Just one of those spur of a moment things. I thought, you know what? Let's hop on. We're talking about great pieces, pilot watches. Got to chat about pilot watches.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's sick.
Exactly,
Sick.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
And if you hear planes
Good
flying
idea.
over, I'm like a mile away from an airport. I don't know if you just heard it, but they fly right over my roof. I can actually see the rivets of the plane. So yeah, if it's noisy, then I'll mute myself. If a plane does fly over, of course, Saturday they're going to be out in force. They do lessons and stuff.
Very topical. Yeah, Mason saying he doesn't usually like Type B, but the IWC looks nice.
It does look good. The real navigator's watch. There's good purpose to how they did how the hands are set up, so you can read the minutes very easily.
Yeah. So, how are you doing, ID guy? Good to see you.
Yeah,
You've
it's been a while. I've been joining, listening into the show after hours, but the last couple of months been a bit busy over the weekends. It's good. It's really nice to just sit in and listen to you guys when I get the time. That future classic series that you did, that was really interesting. That's definitely something to be expanded on because everything's changing. How's the sound, by the way? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, brilliant.
Good.
Sound great.
Yeah, it's great, man. It's great. I hope you guys are well. Hope you're looking after yourselves and keeping active.
What are you wearing today? Have you got the big eye on?
The one and only. Swapped out straps last night thinking, typical old faithful big eye with Gekota. It's like a
Really
burgundy
nice.
burgundy strap. Yeah, it still just does the job. Hey. It's great. This whole Type 20, we'll get into the Type 20s eventually. I know we're all like chomping at the bit to chat about them, but and I've said this many times to Mr. Beaver there that this made me fall in love with the chronograph. I was never a chronograph fan until getting a pilot chronograph on, and then it all made sense. The numerals on the dial, big dial, you can read it easily. Field watch in a way. It just ticks all the boxes. It's a great niche.
Yeah.
Take it.
Yeah.
I agree.
Quickly move on to another IWC. This is the IWC Top Gun, which is
Nice.
in conjunction with a school in Miramar, USA. There's a chronograph with day-date functions and read small seconds at 6 o'clock. The Top Gun chronograph was developed using robust and corrosion-resistant ceramic and titanium for elite US Navy jet pilots that operate on aircraft carriers, where they're exposed to humidity and salt-bearing sea air, which puts a strain on materials. So it's quite an interesting one, this. A more modern-looking IWC. Don't know what your thoughts are on this one.
I'll reserve my commentary for last.
When I look at this, I just think like this is what a cockpit instrument would look like. All these dials and the look. Just look at the sub dials on that thing. It's just like how it would be, in a fighter plane or something. That's what I think of. Not that I've ever fucking sat in a fighter plane before, but to me that look is it's just got pilot written all over it. And obviously it's a chronograph, so I love it. It's super cool piece.
Yeah, nice. Abdul?
Yeah, I like it as well. I'm a big fan of this configuration. I had the 356, the Flieger chronograph from Zin. I like the Zin more than this one, to be honest, with the salmon dial, because just it looked different. But this one, if you're into, let's say, stealth watches, that would be looking really nice.
Yeah.
Still quite all right with me, this IWC. But maybe because I keep my reservations for the big pilot. But I do like the bigger version of this one. I think they have somewhat of a smaller version and a slightly bigger version. So I do like that the 6 o'clock sub dial has actually got a red little needle hand. So that's a lot. Yeah.
This is 44.5 mil Y2K, so this is chunky enough for you, I think.
44 by 5 mil. Do they have 40?
44.5 millimeters, yeah.
Okay, I've seen this one. I've seen the other smaller one. They have a smaller version of this one. So I think 44.5 is still alright. Yeah, it's still quite alright. Yeah.
Yeah, it's on textile strap using the 69380 caliber. It's automatic, so in-house. Go on an ID guy.
Yeah,
Let's have it.
I'm in two minds about it because it would look fantastic on the wrist of a pilot. You know, someone flying a Typhoon or whatever else. But then it's also like it bridges this gap of modern and old school. You can, I mean, as JCB said, it has that feel of being on a speedometer, being a speedo gauge. I think it's a bit too butch. I don't know.
Yeah,
I prefer the more traditional look to these pieces than something that's a bit. I mean, it's a little bit heavy. But then, as an instrument, I can understand how great it would be in the modern landscape for pilots. I think they would dig it, especially fighter pilots. I mean, Top Gun. I mean, it's the school. So yeah, I'm in two minds. Aesthetically, I don't know. I like a bit of cleanliness sometimes. That's just me.
Yeah, there's a lot going on with this one, isn't there? There's heaps. It's crazy.
Yeah. We'll move on to a more classical look then, and a simpler look.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the Handhat 417 ES 1954, sorry. Handhat re-released the 417, which was the first pilot's chronograph issued to the newly founded German armed forces that were established after World War II. Handhat supplied the Bundeswehr with an original model for almost 10 years until the brand started to focus on the production of handheld stopwatches from 1963 onwards. The few surviving examples of the historic 417 have become sought-after vintage watches for collectors, and this was actually worn by Steve McQueen, this one, the 39mm one. It's original low water resistance. Originals had low water resistance, but the new ones have 58 power reserve and run by a Salita SW510 hand-wound movement. Do you like this one more?
No.
More like this guy, isn't it?
No, hard pass for me. Hard pass. It's the progenitor. Yeah. I mean, it's the one that started it all. If you want, this watch spurred on the pilot chronograph into the 60s, 70s, 80s. This is it. It's a gem.
Yeah, it's got that rotating crown as well with the DOS at 12 that you can adjust the...
to just add an extra hour to use it as some kind of countdown. It's pretty cool.
You take it off that fucking bund strap and just put it onto a normal strap.
Yeah, just
and
shell cordovan or something would be sick.
What a great design. I love this watch. I think it's unreal.
And they're going for £1,500.
So good.
We're talking about Type 20 eventually. I know we are going to get there, but this watch, I'm sure most of you know that they took this template one for one and used this because of East and West Germany, because of all of that history. It literally took the Handhat factory and retailored their designs to fit a standardized dial. They just took the Handhat name off, and there's your original Type 20. The very first sterile Breguet Type 20 looks exactly like it.
Yeah. Handhat actually is like in the Black Forest. It was like 15 minutes away from my first apartment. I had a friend who does videos even for Handhat, and he had like a couple of them. I had them in my hand. Really cool watches. Definitely one of my favorite designs as well.
Yeah, it's really clean. Dig them.
Yeah, nice one. One that I really like as well.
I agree on the bund strap also, JCB. I don't like the bund strap, to be honest.
Yeah,
Oh, you mean the leather, kind of like leather belt strap?
yeah.
Yep.
It's only
it's
there's only
very
one watch
correct.
that belongs on a bund strap, and we know
You know
what
the
that
whole
is.
story. You know the whole story about how bund straps were used when you're in the air, just so that the watch wouldn't stick to you when you're 30,000 feet in the air.
Really?
So, yeah, bund
Yeah.
straps were like initially developed just so that the watch case itself wouldn't stick to your skin. So it was a
Okay.
good idea. It worked bloody well. But then in today's sense, unless you're wearing it over a jacket or something, it looks a bit ham-fisted. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We move on to another classic now. The Glycine Airman. Now, back in 1953, legend goes that during a Thai Airways flight between Bangkok and Calcutta, Samuel Glur, who was an executive of Altus Glycine, wandered into a plane's cockpit and chatted to the pilot about a wristwatch needs for his profession. The pilot gave him some features. It would need to track 2 time zones. It would need to, as air traffic control referred to Greenwich Mean Time as the standard anywhere in the world. Another request was for a 24-hour dial rather than a 12-hour one, which is a utility obvious for time-hopping pilots. The second time zone would be tracked by a rotating bezel, which had a 24-hour markers and a locking mechanism, which was the 4 o'clock crown to prevent the bezel from accidentally turning when worn. Other functions required a date function and it to be automatic and waterproof. The executive took notes and sent a letter about the conversation as soon as they landed on the ground. A watch like this didn't exist at the time, but a few months later, Glycine released the Airman, which was cutting edge in 1953. And the rotating bezel was associated with dive watches at the time. The Rolex Turnograph had it, and 50 Fathoms and the Zodiac Seawolf, which were also from 1953, was some of the earliest watches to feature it, alongside the Airman. And the Rolex GMT Master, which also featured a rotating bezel, was released later in 1955. And the Airman was popular with many pilots in Vietnam and Korean wars. And just looking at it, it's a classic watch. I mean, it doesn't get enough accolades, I don't think. It's not recognized enough.
Yeah, agree. Yep.
Has great
I
testimony.
really love the color combination in this one. Yeah.
Mm.
And especially the choice of the nylon strap. I know there's always been the use of leather straps or the boon straps, but I do quite fancy that keeping in tune with Air Force and aviation. A nylon strap makes it look very, very, very cool.
There's a good point you made, Thomas, about the rotating bezel. What's very interesting, we commonly associate rotating bezels with dive watches today, but the Weems collection in the 40s, the very early part of the 40s, so the Omega Weems, the Longines Weems were actually one of the truest first watches to have rotating bezels in the way that we know them today. And started with pilot watches, man. Pilot watches were the ones that really got the rotating bezel going. And this is another example of a watch that made the 24. I mean, there's talk that this watch actually established the 24-hour rotating bezel for a GMT first, prior to any other. This one was the starting point. So it's fascinating. It's really cool. The rotating bezel has quite an amazing little history.
Hi, Dodger. Good to see you. Hope you're having a good time in Berlin. JQH, looking forward to the show tonight. And Jonathan Quayle-Higgins on the Swiss and John show is going to be featuring Dodger and Jamie Opulence, and they're going to be doing a world time shootout. So tune into that tonight. That's going to be a great show. So yeah, back onto the Glycines and
Topic for another show, actually. Well
yeah,
timed.
for another show. So yeah, we'll move on from the Glycine then, shall we?
Yeah, there's some amazing testimonials about Vietnam pilots, especially using them all the time. It's really great histories. You can pull them up. There's lots of testimonials and stories. 35 mils, hey? They were. I don't know if you've ever seen one before. but they are. I mean, this is 35 mils, and the watch that we just saw that was as complicated as anything. If we check the size of this dial, it's tiny compared to a 40 mil. 35 is just minuscule. With the rotating bezel and everything crammed on there, it's quite a mess of stuff. But anyway, it's.
I didn't know it was 35 mil.
35,
wow.
tiny
That's
as
crazy.
any. Yeah, you have to like squint with one eye to see anything on it. Yeah, it's a cool piece.
Yeah, so not quite. We're not quite a Breguet Type 20 yet, but this is a Zenith Type 20, the Pilot Type 20, 45 mil Arabic numerals, entirely made of superluminova, and inspired by legendary Zenith Aviation Watches. And in 1909, Frenchman Louis Blériot crossed the channel with a Zenith strapped to his wrist in a competition where he won £1,000 back in 1909. So that was just after the 1904 when the Cartier Santos was made. So he was wearing a Zenith back then. So yeah, Zenith aviation watches have a long history. I don't know whether you can tell us more about that, ID guy.
This question, Thomas, because we know that the Type 20 has a particular spec, mainly having a flyback chronograph. So how is this called a Type 20 when with that background?
Good point. Very good point.
I couldn't.
It could be a different standardization, different generational gap between them.
Yeah, they call it the Pilot Type 20. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was Type 20 was an actual sort of designation from the French government.
The French.
Type 20 was an actual project, wasn't it? It was a project set by the French government, wasn't it, to commission?
Yeah.
It's a designation. Yeah, it's a designation for that specific class of watch, which is a flyback chrono. But then you get like a Type 15, which could be a deck watch. You get a Type 13, which could be an officer's watch. So it's all over the place. But again, if this is 1903, you said it's a different generation. I would say this is probably
1909.
1909.
Yeah. So definitely an earlier spec, maybe for the Type 20 standards or something like that. Yeah.
I'll save my reservations till the end. If you guys would like to comment.
I just feel it's too big. It's just too
It's
clunky.
never too big, Abdul.
45 meters.
Yeah, it's just I feel it will be overpowering my wrist. It would be just like my wrist falling everywhere, just hitting something with that big crown, with these. I don't know. There's just something about this watch. I love the dial. Like Moser, I think, has the pilot's watch. Very, very similar dial design. I love that. But this one, I don't have any love for it.
I'm just gonna check in the Zenith catalog what it actually says, because there's a little write up.
Tasty. You see, we
nice.
prepare for these shows. We might not think it, but we do.
Let's see what it says about this Type 20 business.
Type 20 business.
Generally, I quite like aviation pieces because the crown is always very chunky, very, very easy to turn.
Yeah, they're amazing.
And compared to diving pieces, a lot of aviation pieces always have that very beautiful, like mushroom crown, if you want to call it.
Yeah, diamond or onion crown. Yeah, they're amazing.
Diamond,
okay. Chrono. That must be a flyback or something. That is sick.
JCB, you're up.
That's more the Type 20 sort of look there with the
chrono. That's our touch. That's cool.
Yeah. But that's these are the special the Zenith. What do they call it? Extra special.
Extra special.
They do look extra nice.
What does that even mean?
I have no idea.
Zenith marketing team trying to come up with something extra special.
Extra special. Let's get that little touch. Yeah, I don't know. It's a repurposed repurposed pocket watch. That was the genre of that time. I don't know. mixed bag. It probably look better with wire lugs, you know, going over the top instead of your standard, you know, welded lugs. But I don't know. It's a weird beast. Someone say motor. Yeah.
JCB wasn't fond of me bringing this one up, but this was founded in 1955. The Seagull 1963 legacy was born out of a dream and modest budget in Tianjin, the oldest industrial city in China, and originally called the Wuzing, meaning 5 stars, and the manufacturing took about 100 days. Shortly after, the band name was changed to Dongfeng, meaning east wind, during Mao's rise to power. And most of the Seagull 1963 watches you see now are reissues of the Chinese Air Force mechanical chronograph. In 2003, Seagull resurrected Project 304's movements, and by 2005 had reissued the first batch of commemorative aviation watches. Seagull have released many chronographs, but the 1963s remained a bit of a classic, being copied and homaged by many. The original was based on a Swiss Venus 175 movement from 1950, I think. And I may have my facts wrong on that, though, but that may be the modern one.
That's right. As far as I know.
Right. You weren't fond of this, were you, JCB, the Seagull?
No, it was more just because I think when we were talking about having some other watches, you were like, like what other pilots' watches are there? And I had a few others, and I thought, if you're going to throw some of those in, maybe this one might get the cut. That's all it was. It's not like I don't like the watch or anything, but
who's handled a Seagull chronograph? I think most of us have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How good are they? I mean, it's actually mad how good they are. They're built like tanks. They can take. I'm like super impressed. I was super impressed by them.
Yeah, I mean for £199, so you can't go wrong, can you?
Yeah.
And the servicing and maintenance and retrieval of replacement parts is very affordable.
Easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're actually amazing. The movement, since it's a clone of a clone of a clone, but even still, workhorse. It's pretty funny to say, but they are pretty awesome.
Yeah.
These are cheap too, right? A couple of $100.
Yeah.
100 to 100, yeah.
Even better.
The only bad experience I've ever had was. Sorry, go ahead.
Pretty much wear it until it breaks down, get a new movement, shop it inside, and continue wearing it.
Yeah. Built like a Vostok. Just use it, abuse it until it's ready to go, and then replace. Easy.
What do we think about this dial color?
I dig that cream parchment color, but I'm biased.
Yeah, I like it. I really like it too. I do.
Not a fan of the red. I've never been as I don't know. Mr. Beaver will probably know. I'm not a fan of those red accents on a second's hand. It just cheapens it for me. But everything else, the color's nice.
About that length, yeah.
Interesting.
I had one with the blue seconds, and I had one with the red seconds, and I have to say I enjoyed the blue seconds more. I think they're just different versions from different Chinese factories, maybe all in the same factory, and they're just installing the seconds hand at the end. But both of them I really enjoyed, and this cream color just goes with anything, right? Just you put it on a strap, perfect, it works. Wear anything on it, it works. Okay, I can go out, just smash it somewhere. It's a crack. Okay, I'll just buy a new crystal, put it on it. So it was really, really cool watch.
Yeah, the cream color is like a pair of faded jeans. It's not. It feels like it's been lived in, and it doesn't draw attention like a white dial would. Another cool fun fact is that those are not blued hands; those are painted blue hands. Bit of corner cutting there.
I thought they were heat treated.
No.
Yeah. It didn't look like didn't look like it was. Made, like that.
They don't look very good in different lights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, just to share as an interesting fun fact, the some of them have good waterproofing, some of them have very bad waterproofing. There's a wee bit of inconsistencies amongst the pieces when they go around.
Oh yeah, quality control. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
We'll move on to Alpena. The Alpena Star Timer collection is yet another family of pilot's watches. Alpena have been manufacturing pilot's watches since 1920s, and the original models were designed for aviators and their navigational needs. The modern iterations are faithful to the original designs and make use of modern technologies to create a vintage look, but are also high-performing and reliable timepieces. And this is one of the heritage pieces. Quite looks a bit like the 1959 that I'm wearing. 1953, sorry. So this is one Alpena, and I'll bring up another one, which is a slightly more modern one with a GMT function.
I was about to say, Thomas, that Alpena reminded me of your Hamilton W10.
Yeah, Hamilton W10. That's a pilot. That was issued to pilots as well.
Yeah, yeah.
This one, I can't make it any bigger, I'm afraid. This picture, but it's got an inner on the inside. It's got an inner GMT hand.
Nice.
Oh,
Looks like a
yeah,
member
it's like
box.
a disc. That's a disc.
Yeah, GMT disc. Yeah.
Yeah.
Alpena
Cool.
memo box.
I know Pete McConville's a big, huge Alpena fan. He collects.
I am too, actually. But I've never had one. But whenever I look at the website and I look at the catalog, I just think they've got some great designs at a good price point. I feel like they're just not a brand that no one really talks about for some reason. I don't know why. At least here in Australia, they don't get much love. I don't know what it's like over in your part of the world, over in Europe and over in Asia. Y2K and Thomas and ID and Abdul, but over here you don't really hear about them. But when I look at them, I just think, man, they've got some great designs going on.
Yeah, definitely. And it's making pilots watches since 1920. They've got the heritage as well. Definitely.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I love these brands that have just skirted by, and a gold mine of just so much opportunity to pull just great references out of nowhere. Yeah, I dig this. This is really, really neat.
Yeah, nice. We'll skip on again. So we've got a lot to get through. I mean, you're dying to get to the Breguet Type 20, aren't you? So
You don't have to, not on my behalf, please. Take your time.
So Longines, this was their latest offering. The Longines Spirit Zulu Time tries its best to pay homage to aviators and members of the armed forces that have long relationships with the brand, combining heritage with present-day technical requirements. It's available in green or blue. Has North Atlantic caliber L844.9, a ceramic bezel, 72 hours power reserve. And it's quite a nice looking watch. Proved very popular among many people, this one. I think you've done a video on this on the ID guy.
Yeah, I did. It's fascinating. It's the gilt. The fact that they've done a gilt dial. That's the first big plus. Brands should pay more attention to putting gilt dials out there because they've got so much character to them. Without even doing any work, give it a gilt dial, and you've already got someone's attention.
100%. Yeah.
And I mean, GMT. I guess the one downside, it could be upside or downside, is that there's a bit of a clash between the Arabics on the dial and the Arabics on the bezel for the GMT. It could be a little bit tech heavy. There's too much going on. But then if it is an old school sort of look, I think they kind of nailed it. I mean, the pencil hands. It's just neat and tidy.
Yeah.
The size is a point of contention. I don't know if people are keen on 42 mils. I'd imagine the lug to lug is probably about 50, so it'd wear big. I don't know. Maybe they'll bring it down one day. to a 39 to a 40, and then it'll get even more. Just I know let's chat about the niggle points, because I know Mr. Beaver probably has a few reservations about like the 5-star general.
I actually really like this watch.
It's weird.
No, I actually really like this watch. I mean, I've come around to Longines a lot. Actually, since you got the big eye, I started looking at them a lot more in detail. And when this one came out, and I actually saw it in the shop. I saw it in the metal. It looked fantastic. In the metal, it's a killer watch. And as you say, with the gilt dial, this render just doesn't do justice to that dial. It's a killer watch in the metal. This one and the blue, there's a blue version as well, I think, which is also cool.
It's more like
But
your
I like it. I mean, I think it's cool. Like for the price point, you're getting a great watch. It looks fantastic. You could wear this anywhere. You could wear it, formal. You could wear it casual. It'll go with, any outfit you've got. You can chuck it on a strap. It's super versatile. It's got a GMT function with date. It's just a killer value, I think. People talk about the stars on the dial, but they're pretty small. They're not like big in your face. You can I think you'd get used to it. After a while, you just sort of ignore them or whatever. But yeah, no, I think it's a cool piece. I really like it. And the color combo with the green bezel, it's just killer, man. What's not to like about it, really?
And the big buzzword that everyone that's kind of eye rolling is true GMT. I mean, it is probably the most affordable true GMT watch that you can get today, which is a big plus.
Yeah.
And it's an ETA based caliber, right? So I mean, servicing will be fine. It's not going to be expensive. It's cool.
What are your thoughts on this, Abdul?
I really like it. I really like it as well. Just the two things that didn't, let's say, allow me to buy it was the size. I'm waiting for a smaller one, and the stars. I just can't. I don't know. I love Orient watches, and Orient watches always have this TriStar on them. And I had a lot of Orient watches that if I get this one, I will feel like, oh, is that one of the Orients with the stars on them? Just the feeling from my perspective, but the watch is amazing, and I love the gilt dial. I think when the Tudor came out, I got the Tudor Black Bay in 2013 when it came out. It had the gilt dials, and I'm in love with these gilt dial divers or Flieger watches also.
Yeah, well, sticking with Longines, they've had a new release, which is the Longines Magitech.
Magitech, yeah.
Bring that one up.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I had so many people pinging me and tagging me to talk about this piece.
Yeah, developed in the 20s and supplied to the Czech Air Force in the 1930s, this one. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on this, everyone?
Go, say it.
Man, swing and a miss, I'm afraid. It's just too much. They went too far. Longines Heritage Department, they are one of the best in the industry when it comes to, I mean, their watches are phenomenal. I could easily buy 4 watches from the Heritage Department right now. This was supposed to be a faithful recreation, but what they decided to do was blow it up, which is cool. The crown guards are completely wrong, should not be there. And the dimensions of the lugs should also be changed, but they got the dial 100% right. The inner bezel is fantastic with that little arrow that you can move around. It irks me.
If you can scroll down in this monochrome article, it's actually got the original
next to
one.
it.
Yeah. If you can can you scroll down?
Yeah.
That's the wings. Look at that little thing.
All right. Look how thin the bezel is as well, and I mean I much prefer this one to the new one. If I'm being honest,
I think these were.
I agree with you.
39 millimeters. Yeah. These originals were like 39 mils, I think, back in the day. They were quite big for the time, and Yeah, the lugs are just wrong. The crown guards. Why did they put crown guards there? It's just doesn't make sense. I think there were other variations of this watch. There were a few other models, but
Yeah.
I mean, you can see the theme.
Yeah. Go back to the new one, Thomas.
Yeah, just keep clicking the cross arrow, and you'll get to it
Yeah,
eventually.
click across. It'll probably come up. Scroll back up.
That's the new.
The dimensions are just all wrong. The case is too wide. The bezel's too wide.
Makes me
Like-
sad.
Yeah, they fucked this one up.
I mean, their heritage
agree.
department, they can create 1-to-1s and scale them up perfectly. This one is just, what were you thinking? Who greenlit this? Anyway, that's my 2 cents. I don't know how everyone else feels. Thomas, what do you
It
think?
feels like
I
a
agree
project that was finished on a Friday night, and everybody wanted to go home on the weekend. It's just like, okay, maybe some crown guards. Let's
They
go
wanted to
home.
go out for drinks an hour earlier. They were like, let's just
Yeah.
hand this over. We're done.
Exactly.
It's a wee. I have to say what Abdul is saying is true. It's almost like an abomination, actually.
That's the best word. You see, I would get
because-
flagged if I said something like that, but you can say it, and that's fantastic.
Truth be told, the crown guards, remove them, and it would just be like, all right. But the crown guards is like,
Yeah.
and that fluted bezel thing. It's like everybody's like, we're not doing enough. Let's pile it on. Bum 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 bum. It's like, okay, stop. It's
Yeah.
too much.
It's like it's like a Panerai. It's like if Longines from 1944 with a Dirty Dozen had a love child with a Panerai, and they decided, oh, what the hell, let's put it all together. Yeah,
Sacrilege.
man. And what Y2K said with taking the crown guards off, I actually did a render. I took the crown guards off, and it looks 10 times better without even doing anything else. It looks so
Yes,
much nicer.
please.
Yeah.
Please listen, Longines. Don't do this.
So I really hope this is not a step in the wrong direction where they're going to add more creative liberties, because their heritage department, they make phenomenal watches.
Yeah.
This.
Yeah.
Anyway, what do you think, Thomas?
I don't see this one doing well at all.
Yeah, quite like it. It's heritage-esque. As you say, it's coming from that stable of heritage watches, isn't it? And I mean, the past one proved very popular, didn't it? I mean, I'm trying to think which one it is. The pilot's watch that they did on the Heritage 1938 or something, or
Yeah. They've done a 38. They've even done a reissue of a Dirty Dozen. They've done RAF pilot watches. They've killed it. Just phenomenal. Just phenomenal.
yeah.
Oh.
So it's a bit of a miss. This one. We'll move on.
Yeah.
I wish I could have a drink, Mr. Beaver, but I can't. It's only midday.
Really? What?
It's too early.
It's like 10 in the morning.
Yeah, it's only like what, 1:45. It's a pity.
As I
Here we
said, it's like 5 o'clock somewhere in the world.
Here's one I wanted. It's Zin 356. This was a 356 collection. Is Zin's range of classic-looking pilot's chronographs. Great German engineering, water and pressure resistant to 100 meters, also resistant to low pressure. A day in a day, 38.5 millimeters, so good sizing, and lovely syringe hands. I love those syringe hands.
Yeah.
A really nice looking pilot's watch. This one. I mean, do you like this one, Abdul?
I owned this one in the Salomon dial. That's my favorite, let's say, pilot's watch. It's such a nice watch. 100 meters water resistant. I took it to the beach. I swam with it. I traveled everywhere with it, and I just sold it because I needed some money to fund the next watch. But it's one of the watches that I'll definitely buy again.
This walks all over that IWC. I think it's just so clean and does everything the IWC was trying to do without overblowing it. You know, looks superb.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the loom on the watch is amazing. Amazing loom. And Zen makes really quality watches. You feel it when you're wearing it.
I had a U1 and I was able to wear it for a couple of days. What a great watch. They just finishing. The thing that blew me away about it was that you turn it around, you feel the case back. It's like domed. It's a bowl underneath there. There's no sharp edges. It just feels engineered above and beyond what other brands do these days. Yeah, absolutely. Zen, they deserve all the credit.
Yeah, I tried the U1 and absolutely loved it. And I tried the 105 UTC, which is the GT. And that's absolutely amazing with the white dial, the pole dial. I absolutely love it. Brilliant brand. Yeah.
Have you seen the new titanium that's just come out? That was launched this week.
Whoa. No, I haven't seen that one.
The T50.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Looks amazing.
Pretty cool. Yeah. What I love about this watch is how the hands are so prominent.
Yeah.
So you look at this watch and straight away you can tell the time. That's the like the time is really legible, right? But then you've got the chronograph function sitting in the background. It's there, but it's not in your face. It's there when you need it. It's very subtle. The main thing here is the legibility of the main handset, which is super cool, I reckon. And I think that's what ID you were sort of getting at, which is
that's exactly it.
On the other hand, everything was in your face.
Yeah.
Whereas here, it's a time-telling instrument.
Balance. You can read through it, and you just as you're saying, the hands are there, but they're not heavy-handed. You know, you can see right through the hands. They're not taking up space where the needle points are. They're perfectly spaced where they're not going to get in the way of the chronograph. They're not going to get in the way of the numerals on the dial. It's just phenomenal. It's just
they designed this watch so well, didn't they? Yeah, they really fucking designed it really well.
Interesting point by Russell here. Didn't make Langer cases.
Yeah,
interesting.
He knows his Langer, that man. So take him for his word.
Yeah,
and Mason's backing that up. It's an SUG subsidiary.
Wow.
Yeah, my 356 had an SUG stamp on the case. I was like, oh, nice. That and the case design is just amazing. Just even though it's thick, it wears really nice on the wrist with straps, NATOs. I just tried it on everything, and everything worked on it.
And just bring this a very good point. We're talking about legibility and stuff. Pilot watches is all about the dial. Like case, I've got a plane flying over. If you hear it, case and everything else is kind of irrelevant next to the legibility of the dial of a pilot's watch. And this just screams it perfectly. Yeah, they got their priorities right with this watch.
Yeah,
100-meter water resistance too. That's flipping insane. That's so cool. That is so cool.
Absolutely.
And especially what you just said, ID. A lot of aviation pieces, I think the only drawback is the water resistance. You know? It's no hidden secret. I mean, from my experience, even like chronographs in general are recommended not to be. Chronographs and water just don't go hand in hand.
They shouldn't see one another in their lives. Yeah,
correct.
So
I can confirm I swam with this several times and it was working perfectly after.
So cool. That's so cool. Mr. Beaver, I think we've got one in the pipeline. You're going to be getting one of those.
Have you got the Zen 903 in there, Thomas, or is that the only Zen you've got?
That was the only Zen I had.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
the 903 would be the one that I would buy now, to be honest, because I wanted to get the 903 with the Navitime design. There was a vintage one, I think, with the no date.
I have got it later on. I'm going to do a Navitime rundown of
Nice.
Yeah. But here's an odd one. An Oris. This is a Oris Big Crown 44 Pro Pilot Timer GMT, which is a bit of a long name. Yeah. The description here says that this is a true pilot's watch that is primed for travel and used in the cockpit with legible black dial, impeccable automatic movement, and the innovative travel-friendly functions. 100% water resistant, domed anti-reflective sapphire crystal, and a striking red tip tarot GMT hand, pointing to a 24-hour scale on the outside of the dial. Small seconds at 9 o'clock and a black date wheel. Oris 7848 self-winding caliber. I don't know whether you're fans of Oris. I mean, the original Big Pro Pilot X was a bit of an interesting one, but this seems to be a bit of a watered-down version.
This is the original of the original. This is the Pro Pilot before the X ever came out.
Right.
This was the precursor, and they were really popular. I don't think they caught on very well in the watch. You know, when social media and stuff's really started kicking off, it hasn't really caught up with the watch space. But yeah, good testimonials about this piece. And
what size is it, Thomas?
Say again?
What size? What's the size?
I think it's 43 or
44 mil.
44.
44.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck! Why do they make it so big?
It's a lot of open space for such a yeah. And the bezel's tiny, which means the dial is going to be huge.
Well, you can see just on the right hand side, all of that open space on the dial there. But 44, if this watch was like 40, 41, 42, I would be all for it. But 44 is just
too heavy.
It's too big. It's too big. But design-wise, I'd like it. It's GMT. It's got a timing bezel. Yeah, it's cool. Like, the design's cool.
Yeah.
If they shrunk it down a bit, then maybe that's why it didn't take off, because it was just too big. I mean, that's got to be the reason. That's why.
I think
that's
I
why
did a video when they brought out that titanium model. I think last year or 2 years ago, I put this dial on it, and it looked a lot more interesting. Yeah.
I tried the Pro Pilot on the Pro Pilot X in a store once, and it was really cool. And I think it's about the same size. It's quite big, but
it is. Yeah, I tried it on. That seatbelt latch on the bracelet is great. I mean, it's quite a really interesting watch. Really nice. And bringing the Speedmaster Moonwatch up in the list. Sorry, Mason, but I haven't included it. No, it's Spitfire is still aviation, possibly the other chronograph.
That's a very good point.
I think it's in its own category, isn't it, Thomas? Like space.
Yeah. There was something.
If we think about it, prior to the watches going to the moon, I'm sure a lot of these test pilots would be flying with CK2998 on the straight lugs, the Ed White kind of model. Oh,
absolutely
sick.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was gonna say, but the Speedy was like a Daytona. It's like a race. It's a motorsport. It's a motorsports watch. It's not even meant to be an aviation watch, really. This gets into that whole discussion about what's an aviation piece. That's what I mean. It's a slippery topic.
Yeah.
Here we've got the Fortis. So this is an interesting one. Fortis F43 triple GMT on a block bracelet, they call it.
Wow.
I'll just get back to a better picture of it. There we go. Fortis are really bigging this one up, saying that it's the best Flieger of all times. The Flieger is one of the most iconic of all aviation watches. The Flieger embodies one of the cornerstones within the brand's collection, and that this tool is made for people who want to enjoy it for decades to come, regardless of fashion or status. So there's very bold marketing there from Fortis. Titanium cuts the weight in half, almost half. There's more durable, is anti-magnetic, hypoallergenic, and is corrosion resistant. It's 42 millimeters. This one, it's using their Work 13 automatic self-winding caliber with 70 hours power reserve, and the titanium block bracelet with quick adjust. a central 24-hour GMT time zone ring, and it was first created in 1987. This one. So I like Fortis watches, but I think they've overhyped this one a bit much. The marketing.
You reckon? Just a little bit.
Just a bit. Not
yeah.
42 mil titanium. I mean, it's interesting point because we're talking about pilot watches and legibility and all of that stuff. But I mean, I don't know if you know about the Citizen ProMaster. They were issued to the Pakistani Air Force for like a decade. Dive watch. So it makes you think, what is the criteria? Yeah. Best Flieger of all time. That's bold. I wonder if Flieger is trademarked. That'll get you in trouble.
The word Flieger, is it trademark for
imagine. I mean, that'd get you in trouble to say that sort of statement. Yeah.
Oh man, I was on Instagram the other day and I was having a discussion with Adrian Barker about trademarking NATO, the NATO strap in various countries, including in Australia. Companies have trademarked NATO for fucking NATO straps. Can you believe it?
Yep.
Unbelievable.
And a store had to like close because the title of the strap, the title of the company was NATO, cheap, whatever the name was. NATO was in the name. And the store was like completely lawsuited and culled. It's crazy.
Crazy. Yeah, sorry, I went on a tangent there. We're talking about trademarks, which is really interesting. I'm with you though, Thomas. I like Fortis watches as well. They're sort of in that Alpena category for me. Like
Yeah.
They do some awesome chronograph. Fortis do some great chronographs.
Yeah, exactly. I own one of these Fortis Marine Master Fliegers. It's called the B42, I think. Al-Tayyar edition. It's with an Eastern Arabic numeral.
That's
200 meters water resistance. Flieger 44 millimeters, usually outside of my size race. But somehow it wears like the ProMaster as well. It has a lug system that it just wears on my wrist. I have a 17 centimeter wrist, so not a big one, but it just wears nicely. I really enjoy it. I also go swimming. I take it everywhere. It's my favorite traveling watch at the moment.
Great name too. Altair edition, like the eagle. That's really sick. I like that. Really nice.
So we'll move on from the marketing hype of Fortis. We'll move on to another one you've done a video on, ID Guy, which is the Blancpain Air Command. Now, this is the current model, which has the caliber F388B, which is a vertical clutch column wheel flyback configuration, a high beat 5 Hz chronograph with 50 hours power reserve. This is a slight makeover from the limited edition version, which was introduced in 2019, has a skeletonized rotor instead of the propeller-shaped rotor that the limited edition had, which matches the finish of the movement a bit better. This is 42.5 millimeters titanium case with a bicompact layout on blue sunburst style with a printed tachymeter scale and titanium bidirectional countdown bezel with a blue ceramic insert. The Air Command was originally made in the 1950s and supposedly intended for use by the US Air Force. Only a handful of the originals have survived, and the limited edition is faithful to that design. And I'm not so much a fan of this blue dial.
It's a bit too much blue in one watch.
Yeah, I have got the
image,
which is really nice.
It's a gilt.
I believe they made one that's 36 mil in that same category. I believe they've made an Air Command that's 36, and it's also blue like that. I think they're two different sizes. I think the 36 came out a bit later. Yeah,
they have. But this one,
you got to look up the water resistance. Just quickly have a look. Look it up.
No.
Yeah, it's really bad. Like super bad.
Blancpain. I mean, of all brands, I mean, how did that work out?
Because I looked at this watch, and I remember looking at it going, shit, I want one. But then something turned me off, and I'm pretty sure I remember it was the water resistance being like
30.
50 meters or something like that.
3 bars, I think. 3 bars. Yeah.
What's that? 30. Yeah,
30,
it's 30.
yeah.
That's
Yeah,
30
3
meters.
bars.
Yeah. I was like,
maximum
man,
hand
I'm not
wash.
I'm not dropping 12K on a watch that's got 30 meters of water resistance, man. Come on. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, how do they, even in today's day, like Navitimers even have like at least 50 or something, right? It's like, come on, man. 30 blank pan, 30 meters. Come on. What are you doing?
But
What the hell?
it's
I
beautiful.
mean, I know
though.
it's an air watch, right? It's meant to be in the air. It's not meant to be in the sea. But like what Abdul was saying before, like you want to go swimming, or if you're at the beach or in the pool or something with your watch on, you don't want to feel like you have to take the damn thing off. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Beautiful design, though. I think we can all agree. It's a real gem. That rotating bezel is sick.
7 times 30, yeah, okay.
The Navitime is only 30 mil.
Yeah.
It's like
come
it's
on,
like
man.
the elemental.
That's
you know,
why I
elements,
like,
they all have Achilles' heels. You know, like fire can't deal with water. Water can't
Yeah.
deal with electricity. Pilot watches can't deal with water. Dive watches can't deal
exactly.
with keeping time longer than an hour. You know, it's like they all have their own drawbacks. I love it. It's
What
classic.
happens when the pilot has to eject over the Pacific?
Yep.
JCB, this is what happens when your air commander tells you if you want to live, you keep the plane in the air, and your watch will tell you the time.
Exactly.
But if you crash, you're done.
Don't crash the plane, you
or you
moron.
wear a Zin. You wear a Zin then.
Where is it? And
I love this watch, though. I really do love the design of this watch. I think it's great. I mean, I'm a big fan of this watch. I don't know.
It's so legible. That's also just amazing. You've got a tachymeter in there, you know? It's got everything.
Yeah.
Open 6.
Looks so elegant as well.
Yeah.
I think it's a dress watch, pilot's watch, let's say. Guy with a
Very good.
Thomas.
Very good point there.
A dress watch for pilots' sake.
Yeah, because there's something about regimentality that I think the pilot watch has over other genres. Like, I think of the 1940s. I'm actually going to do a video on it soon, but the whole idea of you've got this real focus of something that's going to fit dress blues and your uniform, but is also equally functional in a plane, and it's like a great blend of both. Love it.
Yeah. So next, the Tutuma Bundeswehr reference 760.02 from 1995, a military chronograph using the Lemania 5100 caliber, which is popular amongst many collectors. Tutuma is a German brand established in 1927 in Glashütte, but has also been registered since 1970 as Tutuma USA Inc., an independent company based in California. I don't know whether that's whether they got bought out or whether that's a separate company. I got confused with. But they've produced high-precision pilot's watches for the Luftwaffe and NATO in the past. And I really like this one. This is a classic of theirs.
Interesting choice. I mean, I know Tutuma with the Luftwaffe, they were prominent. Another one of the brands like Stover and LARCO that were issuing pilot pieces back then. But this looks like a Porsche design. Am I wrong? I mean,
doesn't it? It looks like a Porsche design. You're right, with the recessed pushers.
Yeah. I mean, I get some Pulsar vibes with those pushers, but it also looks like a Mark II Speedmaster.
Speedy, yeah. Yep.
Flightmaster. It's got some Flightmaster vibes to it.
Hi, Bill.
Yeah. Hey, Bill.
hey, Bill.
Interesting piece. Titanium, I would guess, hey?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Not bad. I had no idea that this existed.
Yeah, but the Lemania
I
5
used to have a couple of those Lemania 5100 watches. Really cool watches with this plane.
Oh, signal. Hold on. Nope. We're back.
Yeah. My network here in Egypt is not the best. Yeah, I was just saying about the movement, the 5,100. I used to collect a lot of them. I even sold my whole collection to another collector that collects 5,100 the Mania. I regret selling them now because they're really cool watches and they were affordable at that time, and they just upped in price. But the Tutimo was one of them that I wanted to get. I got a unbranded one from the Bundeswehr that they had. With the same movement. It was like 400 euros at the time.
Yeah.
And I sold it as well in the other collection, but with really nice movement.
Wow.
Sick. Unbranded is the way to go, man. That's just stealth. Dig it.
Yeah, so an interesting one from Tusima, and here we come with your the one you've been waiting for, ID guy.
Type 20.
Yeah, although
I don't know.
not the Breguet one.
That's fine. Iran, Orikost, Dardan, Vixer, Mathitiso.
Now this is a Mathetiso Hemel Type 20. Hemel Watches is a micro brand that is always looking to recreate and collaborate with classic brands to revive historical timepieces. Here they've done so with Mathetiso and their Type 20 watch. Now Breguet got the original Type 20 contract for the French military, which required a flyback chronograph. Breguet later subcontracted it out to Switzerland Mathetiso, and Mathetiso's relationship with Breguet dates back to at least as far as 1934. The Type 20 chronographs date back to the years just after World War II, and they remained in production as well into the 60s or 70s. The other Type 20 chronographs also made by Dodane, and you could tell us the other company's ID guy. Dodane.
Iran.
Orikost, Iran, Mathitiso, Vixer. Vixer was a good one.
Vixer was one of the originals with Breguet as well, Thomas. That was really, and Orikost, I think.
Orikost, yeah.
The first three.
This ML collaboration with Mathetiso features a Solita 510M BHB hand-wound caliber, which was limited to 50 pieces, and at $1,795, it's about half the price of an original Mathetiso. So it's a nice watch. I mean, it's a classic Breguet style look.
Yeah.
And
this one, I'm just looking at it. This is actually one of the most sought after. So you had the two dials that look exactly the same on either side. That was for just the Air Force. This designation with the big eye on the right is for the Aeronautique Navale, which is the Navy Air Force. Very specific and probably the most sought after. The third one with the tri-compacts was for the CEV, which were the flight test center, where they got the really advanced planes and technologies to test. But this is kind of the Goldilocks for a Type 20, where you've got the big eye on the right, two subdials. French Navy pilots use these.
yeah, I mean, classic watch, the Type 20. I mean, it's a classic flyback chronograph.
That anti-reflective coating, though. Oh. What do you think, Mr. Beaver?
Oh, man, I love it. I love this watch. It's just so cool. The design, the big eye, the thin steel bezel. It's just like, man, it's so cool.
Yeah, it's very neat.
I just love it. Yeah, really cool piece.
You found
Sorry, Thomas.
No, carry on.
Did they get the proportions right? I mean, the dimensions. Is it like a 44 or something daft, or is it a 38, 39, I think, like the originals?
Yeah.
Wow. It's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. What do you think, Abdul? Are you a fan?
Yeah, I like it as well. I really like it. I've been eyeing the big eye for a long time now. But like I said before, I had the Zin, and then when I sold it, I was like looking at what would I get as a chronograph to replace it, and this was one of the options that I had in mind. But I didn't pull the trigger on any of them right now. But still, really cool. I love the bezel. I love the bigger sub dial. It just looks really neat, and I like the bi-compass design.
I reckon the bezel brings a lot to this watch.
Oh, yeah.
The polished bezel on these watches, and it's the same on the the Breitling version as well.
765.
Yeah, 765. It just adds a dimension to the watch where you could dress it up. You could wear this with a business casual shirt or something like that. It just that, and it's thin. It's a thin polished bezel. It's not in your face like a Daytona polished bezel. Those steel ones. It's just really it just brings this it's just a really unique to this design watch, that thin bezel. I just think is really cool. Yeah,
the designations are very specific for these pieces. Like it's a 15-minute counter, and they had to adjust the movement in order to jump it 2 minutes each time. And that bezel, that's where it really started. And beforehand, it was just that simple engine turn, like you saw on the Handhat. By the time they got to this, which was the next step for the French Navy pilots, they really went to the nth degree to make it just superb. So yeah, this is the grail, really, the grail design of the Type 20 that collectors go mad for. The CEV tri-compacts, I mean, they only made like 150 of them, so yeah.
What do you think, Y2K? You fan?
Still quite alright with me. This is one of the few pieces, despite its size. I quite like the dome. The crystal actually appeals to me. And the thing is that if it cannot make up in size, the numbers, the Arabic numerals, am I right to say that? Still at least redeem itself to a certain degree. And that dome, I don't know, because I've never seen this one in real life yet. But based on what I'm seeing it from my angle, it seems like a dome. So that dome effect is actually I actually quite fancy in a piece like that. So for me, aviator piece with this, the strap's not really, but I would say like a proper brown colored rubber strap might do it well, or a black one. Crocodile skin, yeah, or a silver mesh bracelet would rock this out very well. Yeah.
I mean,
how many millimeters?
These sold out so fast. Hey? They sold out within a day, I think. Sadly.
Yeah, Belzovsky, how much is this? This is the Hemel Mathesis collaboration. This was $1,795 bill, American dollars, which is half the price of an Mathesis.
Thomas, how many millimeters is this?
38. Yeah.
Okay, so it's within my somewhat acceptable margins already. My minimum acceptable margins already. Yeah.
Just scrapes in, huh?
I think my first order of business I would take that AR coating crystal off. I can't. That blue is just so distracting for me, at least. It's just so distracting. I love it. I love a clean. I mean, with a domed crystal, you're already going to get such a clean look through it. Yeah.
It's this manual wind. It's using a Solita 510M BHB hand wound caliber. So I hope
that's something to consider. That you could call that a drawback or an advantage if you're a purist. I'm quite a fan of an automatic chrono. I don't know. It's just that convenience of you can set it, you can let it go, let it run, and just wear it for a full day if you're going somewhere, and you can calculate your travel time of like 8-9 hours. When it's a manual wind, relying on one mainspring, it's a bit tight.
Yeah.
I think the only thing is the size, right? That's the thing that you have to, the rotor. That's why I like peripheral rotors, but we don't see a lot of peripheral rotors chronographs.
Yeah. It's a good idea. I mean, to skeletonize a rotor on a chrono is a good idea. Takes that weight away. the feel of it on your wrist when you're wearing it. It's pretty cool.
So move on to Bell and Ross. Now, these are a bit of a funny brand. The BR0392 and other square watches that Bell and Ross make have a design inspired by aircraft instrument gauges. And I quite like the dials and overall design. Bell and Ross claim that they're used by fighter pilots and astronauts, but I don't really know how accurate that information is. Although very legible, I think many pilots may choose other watches over these. And yeah, I don't know. What are your opinions on Bell and Ross? I mean, very legible, extremely legible.
I'll start by just getting the ball rolling, and I know Mr. Beaver's got some stuff to say. I think it's commendable that this looks like it was taken right out of a cockpit. You could swear this dial has. I mean, the case. It looks like the instrument itself has just been unscrewed and put on a lug case to be worn, which is cool. I like that. Yeah. Hell, I mean, it's a Bell and Ross when you see it, and that's pretty cool as well. I mean, 9 times out of 10, most watches look so generic. This one, from a glance, it's a Bell and Ross, which is hard to achieve in most cases for a brand. But yeah. I think there are better pilot watches out there. What the Zin 556 looks exactly like this, no?
Yeah, it does.
Exactly.
So,
and it looks a lot better as well.
Mr. Beaver, let's hear your take.
No, yeah, I'm just look. I'm not going to rip on Bell and Ross. So I think no. I mean, I think they've tried to take an actual instrument out of a cockpit and put it on your wrist. That's clearly what they're trying to do. So the good things about that, I think, as you touched on, ID, are that no one else does that, such that when you see the watch, it's a Bell and Ross, and that's the design, and that's what it is. And there's a lot to be said for that, actually. It's not easy to have such identifiable brand and design language to cut through the fucking myriad watches that are out there. So the fact that we look at this and we know it's a Bell and Ross, that in itself is something that's to be commended. But yeah, I mean, just in terms of the design, it's just something that I wouldn't wear, because it's just an instrument that I would rather see this in the cockpit, not on my wrist. I think that's where I sort of land up. It's just so much of an instrument that it's just something that I wouldn't consider wearing, really.
Yeah, just going to Mason Wan's comment, I don't think Bell and Ross designs aren't really aviation watches. Inspired, but not necessarily designed as a flight tool watch. I think he's spot on.
I have to agree 100%, and that's why you don't see a lot of, let's say, pilots wearing Bell and Ross. Maybe flight engineers or engineers that's working in the aviation would be more likely to wear stuff like this, because that's how they designed the before. But I'm not a big fan of the square shaped design. I understand the novelty of it. I hate also the small date window. It's useless. Just don't put it.
Bill mentioned that, and I wasn't even looking for a date window until he mentioned that's how small it is. You don't even notice it. I mean, it's pretty mad.
Yeah, it's just useless. I think it's also some of the gauges on the early instruments had some kind of, let's say, window down for whatever number, and they just trying to give, let's say, props to that, but it's not functional. And if it's not functional on the watch, then just don't put it.
I'm sure.
Bell and Ross actually has a nice chronograph, and it's called the Aeronaval, I think.
Yeah.
That's a much better piece for me. I like that one because it's actually a watch that I would wear. It's got a bit of it's actually a nice looking piece, and that you would call, it's actually named after the bloody Aeronaval, so it's meant to be a pilot's chronograph. That would be the one that I would go for. This thing here is
The
just
only the only Bell and Ross that a friend of mine who's a pilot talked about to me, and he was asking me to wear to get, is this BR03 red radar ceramic. It just looks like
the
a
radar
radar.
is cool.
Oh, the radar one. Yeah.
Radar is cool.
Yeah, that's a really cool watch, and
Yeah.
I think that would be my choice.
That is a nice piece. I'm looking at it now. It's awesome. It's just so different, and that's how it's sort of the way the case and the dial's been done. It sort of feels like it should be a radar watch or something like that. You know, have an extra little feature on top of it.
What do you think, Y2K and Thomas, of the Bell and Ross? What are your thoughts on that?
I like their designs. I mean, like Mason once said, they're probably not used by pilots, but I like their designs. I mean, I quite like square watches, to be honest with you. And yeah, I like their designs. They're very legible. I mean, I like that military gauge, not military, but aviation inspired gauge design, and definitely an interesting layout. Yeah, I like them a lot.
Definitely. I would actually go with a yes for me. For me, I've always been quite a supporter of Bell and Ross, despite the fact that I've been pushing back not buying one because I haven't found a Bell and Ross that I could actually really like. But in terms of it, you really have to be a watch enthusiast to buy a Bell and Ross and appreciate Bell and Ross. And because what ID Guy says, the prominence of Bell and Ross is visible from afar. You can wear, okay, with respect to certain pieces that are overhyped, you can wear a certain overhyped watch or something, and everybody's like, oh, it looks like that. But Bell and Ross itself has actually done itself very well. The fact that with that very squarish design, and I also agree that it looks like it got ripped off a plane's
it just unscrewed it and attached it to a strap, and there we go.
Correct.
Pretty cool. It's quite a nice idea. It's Germanic in a way, you know. It's just purpose.
You're right, ID Guy, and the hands especially. If you look at the hands in the altimeter, right, they have this very big, thick hands with a very interesting arrow. So they've actually kept in tune with, you know, with like keeping it with like some aviation touch to it, because sometimes people are trying to figure out where this Bell and Ross watches fit in. You know, are they doing this? Are they doing, you know, land, air, or sea kind of thing? So, but they have done very well in terms of design. It's just the sad part is that the marketing, the advertising of it is still not sufficiently good enough. Yeah.
Thomas, if you can just quickly pull up the Aero Naval that I've got up there. I don't know if you can. Can you see that? Yeah, there it was. Look at that. What do you?
That's getting there. It's funny, hey, because I mean, we think of Bell and Ross as a square with a circle inside it, and you see it now with lugs, and it just doesn't look like a Bell and Ross anymore. Apart from the 12 and 6, which are very typical, it doesn't feel like a Bell and Ross at all. Hey, you could take the name off the dial, and it could be micro brand.
You can sell it as a tag wire, easily,
Yep.
right?
It's crazy how just a few little elements define a watch and its brand.
Tell you what, JCB, put that in the traditional, okay, the cardinal traditional Bell and Ross. Keep the blue, make the case silver, okay, and then leave everything else in that color configuration. You will catch my attention. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I get it. It's traditional. It looks like a lot of other watches, but this is just an example of other stuff that they do, and I think that they do really quite well.
Nice.
You know, I mean, this is a great looking watch in my opinion. Really killer piece. Just wanted to show the puppers that one.
Screw down pushers, crown guards. It's neat.
Interesting. So just move on to the start of our Navitimer marathon. Yeah. Now, Wachman, I don't know whether you know Wachman, they're a distributor of luxury watch bands in Portugal in 1943 before relocating to their main offices to New York in 1946, where they became an important distributor of watches in the US, and they provided aircraft clocks to the military. And in the 40s and 50s, but were mainly known for being distributor of Breitling watches and clocks, as well as making a yacht time amongst other watches to the general public in the 1970s, which had a Le Mania movement. And their triple date chronographs.
Alan Ross on the top left. Can you believe it?
Their triple date chronographs are one of their signature watches. They're highly regarded by collectors. And the main reason I bring them up in the stream, though, is that they actually started to make Navitimers in 1952 before Breitling started in 1954. And here's some of their triple dates, which are their sort of signature pieces.
Wow. That is cool.
How good is that? Yeah,
That's really. I love those hands, man. Those are real cigarette hands right there. Check it out.
So they were popular, but we'll move on to the Navitimer.
I mean, that looked like a top time, hey? That case and pusher setup, it looked like a Breitling top time. Awesome.
Yeah, a little bit. You're right there. But the Breitling Navitimer, this is the 806 1959 reedition, and the first Navitimers produced were intended for the sole use by members of the Aircraft and Pilot Association community, referred to as AOPA. Any reference numbers on the back, and were produced for only 1 year, from late 1954 until 1955. They were marketed to AOPA members for the price tag of $87.50. And in 1956, to capitalize on the Navitimer's success within the aviation community, Breitling took the 806 design cues, pre-806 design cues, and released what is now referred to as the reference 806. A lovely looking piece as syringe hands, large legible Arabic numerals, black sub-registers on a black dial, and the original Breitling AOPA logo. And the familiar slide rule bezel to gauge fuel use for flights, amongst many other calculations. Before this, in the 1930s and 40s, pilots were using the E6B flight computer, which was a flat circular slide rule made of cardboard or metal to make calculations relating to aviations. Although it's been redesigned, mechanically altered and improved throughout the years, the Navitimer has never faltered in its role as a navigational aid and an icon of modern horology, really. And
can you repeat the price again, Thomas, of this watch? It was $815.50.
$87.50. $87.
Wow.
My God.
Because if you said it was $800 in the 50s, then I'd be like, yo, that makes quite a lot of sense, because these were
87 and 50 cents.
87. Wow.
That was in the
and do you know how much the list price of this watch on the screen is? Have a guess.
10 grand, 12 grand?
Yeah, in Aussie, Aussie, it's about 11,
20,
11
18?
and a half.
Okay.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah, this is and AOPA. That sounds like a greeting. Eh? You could wave at someone. AOPA. I think. Okay.
£500. This one.
But you can't get them. You can't get them retail. You have to get them secondhand today, and that's double at least. These are rare as hen's teeth today. If you could find one of these, so cool. The shield and wings. I know it's a point of contention. Like the true Breitling diehards, they don't like the AOPA logo as much as the Flying B. I know that it's a bit divided there, but that shield and wings just looks so neat. Dig it.
The Maison one is wearing his
Yeah.
A23322.
Now
Yeah, that's a killer
Nice.
piece, man.
wearing his
Killer.
nav for this segment is a reference A23322, blue dial with buttons from 2009 using the value
What's cool about that is that that reference A23322 is the last of the 42 mil where they made the blue dial. Now they only make the blue dial in 46, which really
46?
fucking sucks.
What?
Yeah, they don't make it in 43 at the moment. And I think Y2K, are you showing your Navitimer? Can you get
Let's
rid
have a
of
look.
yeah,
Love it.
yeah.
Oh, he's on a mesh
Yeah.
too. Oh,
Yeah,
you're a legend.
Nice.
Gotta have it on a
Oh,
mesh.
sorry.
I love it. I love it.
Let me get the thing off.
The protector out, yeah.
Still got the
Yeah.
stickers on.
So
Yeah.
cool, man.
Lovely.
This is the B01 for this 46 millimeters. And you are right. I am a bit of a what was I say, OCD on the logo. So I actually demanded that I want the Go wings, not
Yeah,
the
you
B
gotta have
or the Yopa. Yeah.
You can't have the B logo.
It looks
Gotta have-
phenomenal, hey. Even at 46, I mean, for this configuration, it looks just right. You know, you've got the good enough dial, and the white just caps it off. It doesn't feel too. It doesn't actually look at size, which is superb. I mean, I would have sworn that was 43. Yeah,
Just to
superb.
give you guys a perspective of my wrist, I don't have a very gigantic wrist.
No, it's spot on,
This
man.
is 46 millimeters,
that's-
so it's still really,
Yeah, that
really
works quite
comfortable.
well.
They
Yeah.
nailed it, man. The lugs, they've
Fantastic Y2K.
yeah. That is
And
a
really,
fantastic watch.
this is the
Good.
very first piece. Actually, my very first Breitling. Some people have bought like other Breitlings, but I think that if you love like aviation pieces, aside from like the brands that have been featured, they can actually explore Breitling too.
Yeah, Breitling is the pilot watch. It's amazing their history. I mean, Mr. Beaver could fill us in on the background. He loves Breitling. It was your first great watch, wasn't it, or was it a Zenith?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I won't go into all the background as you say, but I was messaging Thomas during the week, and I was showing him like the Breitling catalog. They've got so many
So good.
aviation watches. That's really their jam. And in the 80s, and I remember being a kid and looking at like National Geographic and stuff, and they were marketed towards pilots. That was their
Niche.
segment. That was their playground. That was their niche. It always was their main thing was aviation pilot. When you're a pilot, you have a Breitling, and that's the thing that they do, and they've done for so long. So yeah, it's really it's their jam, man.
Love it, man.
Aviation.
I mean, they've done so many, like the top times, and I hope we'll get into it. But I mean, it's just fantastic, the stuff they've done. I always end up looking back at Breitling, being like, "Yeah, I could do with a top time, just something simple."
Yeah, they're so good.
That's
Top
that's
Guns are
my
great.
one. That's
So this is
Yes, here's the
another version
903.
of this one.
903 chronograph. The Zin Navitimer. In the quartz crisis, Zin bought the rights from Breitling to manufacture the Navitimer, but they couldn't call it the Navitimer. They had to call it the Zin chronograph. It's identical, but a little similar. Many just assume that Zin ripped off the Navitimer, but people don't realize how difficult a time a lot of watch brands experienced during the quartz crisis, Breitling being one of them. So Zin actually helped rescue Breitling when they went into what's the word?
Verging on bankruptcy.
Yeah, original bankruptcy. Yeah. So this is a lovely one, I think.
And
Really nice.
it's that little rotating crown on the left that really defines it. Hey, that inner bezel.
I think
I like it. Eh?
Slightly smaller size. This one.
But it's thicker though. It's a lot thicker, I think.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's why I like the other version that like the let's say the minimalist version from the Zen 903 HD. It doesn't have a date, and it's manual wind. So you have the 100 meters water resistant. You have a hand wind movement, and you have the Navitimer design, and that's for me a winner. Let's say because you can swim with the Zen without thinking about it. I wouldn't take any Breitling chronograph near to a coastal city, let's say, even.
Yeah, my thing is 41 millimeters. This one.
It's a good size. 41 is quite a Goldilocks size, I think, for a lot of wrists.
Yeah, hi Chili, good to see you.
Watch trivia time.
Here we go. This is his favorite. I love this piece.
The Navitimer was featured in a Bond movie. What was the Bond movie?
Come on, man. That's easy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, man.
Oh.
I know.
I'm not.
Smartass.
Take care, Russell. Great to chat. Great to see you.
Yeah. Can anyone guess? I won't ruin it because I know it's.
I don't know. I'm not a Bond buff, so you'll have to let us know, ID guy.
Yeah, I
Thunderball,
forgot.
man. Thunderball, one of the best Bond films.
Oh,
love it.
Okay.
And it was great because it wasn't just a Navitimer; it was also a top time. Hey, you're right. It had that big case, and he used it in the water too, as like a radiation sensor or something. Had a mesh bracelet. It was sick, man. Such a cool film.
Geiger counter.
Yeah. Oh, it was cool, man. I loved it.
And it's a special top time produced just for the movie, but the Navitimer was just a standard 806.
It was like the brother of Bond's pull. She got the watch given to her, I think, as his plane went down, and I think Bond had the watch at once. It was really cool. It was awesome. Such a cool film.
Yeah, it's a cool movie. Yeah, that's Breitling and Bond.
They should put more Breitlings in Bond, man. Breitling could be such a good villain's watch.
B&B.
Got like Omega versus Breitling. I don't know. There's so much opportunity for. This is cool. Wow.
So another Navitimer here. This is the Olich & Wass Aviation Navitimer Chronograph 7736. This time by a Swiss company, started in 1956 by Joseph Olich and Albert Wass. In 1979, being great friends with Willy Breitling for years, Joseph and Albert, along with Patek Philippe and Helmut Zinn, as I mentioned earlier, acquired the tooling, stock parts, and Navitimer designs from the liquidated Breitling. Olich and Wass used the Breitling stock inventory to continue seamless productions of the world's most famous pilot's watch, the Navitimer, as we see here, albeit under the new brand name of Aviator. This became the focus of the business for the next decade and a half. Uses a Valjoux 7736 handwound, 17 jewel highly decorated movement with dome crystal. Only 10 were produced in this decorative movement, and the reverse panda with the reverse panda gilded dial, one of the last triple register special editions that they made. And it's a Navitimer made by 3 different companies.
I
love the style.
Thanks so much for bringing this up. I didn't know about this one.
I love that it's called Aviation. I mean, it's just Chronograph Swiss. It's just says it all. That's what's cool. It doesn't actually have a brand name assigned to it. It's just, this is its purpose. Made in Switzerland. It's a chronograph. There we go. I really like this.
It's like the perfect tool watch, right? It's like, okay, the title, where it's made, the function, dials legible, everything is legible, clean dial. Just
basically
so
sterile.
nice,
I love it. And the white subdials, man. Oh, why can't they do more of that today?
Yeah, that's a great reverse panda.
They look a little bit, it's a tiny bit bigger than the ones on the Breitling as well. Just a tiny bit, which is kind of cool. Yeah.
And how they meet the batons at every corner.
Yeah.
That's so neat. I like it. I think the one adjustment I would make would be to make the hands on the actual hour and minute hands a bit
The
thicker.
hands bigger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just a bit thicker, so you could see them a bit. They're a bit thin, but that's also true to what you would see from Zin and watches of that age too.
Bill says the dial's too busy. Maybe that's a tri-compact still. I don't know. But if you're a real Navitimer nerd, you get a Breitling, a Zin 903, and one of these Olicon Wax aviators.
I was watching a Antiques Roadshow, and this guy brought in this beautiful Navitimer vintage. And the guy who was giving the story behind it didn't know what a slide rule bezel was. I mean, this is an expert. And he was talking about how you would use it to he was explaining a tachymeter bezel, not a slide rule. And yeah, it's unfortunate. The slide rule is infinitely more important. Curtis, good to see you.
Great to see you, Curtis. Good morning, ID. Abdul and Y2K and
GMT.
Yes, an input from a 50-year-old pro pilot, industrial designer, and watching. 40 is on my wrist, 30 plus. As one more watch, my Rolex GMT 16750. Beautiful.
Curtis is a laugh. I mean, when he was buying that GMT, he bought it, and the next day he was about to buy a Daytona. He was going to get a Daytona and a GMT, and just decided the second day, nah, I won't pick it up. And the rest is history. It would have been around like the late 70s, 80s, if I remember right.
Well, talking of that watch, Curtis, we're going to just bring that one up.
How's the GMT treating you, Mr. Beaver? Are you loving it still? Batgirl, Batman, what are you going to call it?
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, great watch. Great watch. I'm thinking of getting the other bracelet for it, actually, the Oyster.
Okay.
Yeah, but they're so expensive, so it's just prohibitive at the moment, the costs. But yeah.
Did you try it on the rubber bee bracelet?
No, not yet, buddy. No, I'm still thinking. I'm still churning over in my head. Yeah, they're expensive for what they are. I find.
Yeah.
Those rubber bracelets for Rolex, they cost, I don't know, a few $100. You know, when you think about it, for a rubber. There's no titanium inside there or anything like the Oyster Flex. It's just rubber, and you're paying $300 or whatever. It's like, anyway. What do we got here?
16750, I think, right? This is not a 50.
This is a 16750 that Curtis was talking about. The Rolex Master from 1954-55 was designed for pilots of Pan Am Airlines, where it gets its red and blue colors from on the bezel. The bezel was originally Bakelite and is commonly known. That one was commonly known as the Pussy Galore, which was worn by Honor Blackman in a James Bond film, I believe, and where it gets the name Pussy Galore from her character. It has the innovative fourth hand to tell the time in a second destination, and is now referred to as the Pepsi because of the bezel's colors. And yeah, it's a classic, absolute classic. Yeah, I mean,
look at that.
Next to its modern brother.
That's so neat.
Its great grand cousin is sitting there.
Yeah, that's it, that girl. One of the latest.
Beautiful watch.
I love that watch on the Jubilee. I love it. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but man, the GMT on the Jubilee just looks so clean.
Doesn't
I
it?
have to agree with ID Guy.
Yeah, I agree.
Man,
I agree.
it's so nice. And those colors. I know the Pepsi gets all the talk, but blue and black just goes with everything.
They done it. Day and night.
Definitely.
Nighttime for the black and daytime for the blue, I think. That I much prefer that to the Pepsi, to be honest with you. Yeah. Beautiful JCB. Gorgeous.
And speaking of which, I'm in that stage now where I'm really looking for a GMT watch. And preferably I wanted to have a green dial or a white dial, something different. And yeah, I'm struggling to find something really good. I'm just waiting for something awesome. need a GMT. That's the next piece that I'm hunting for.
But yeah, the classic Pepsi, I think this is the third iteration. There were two before this, and I think this is the third iteration of the Pepsi.
Yeah.
I wanted to also bring up the Albino, which is the
Yeah, it's rare. Boy.
1958 6542, which was made for Pan Am with a white dial, or albino dial, and was a gift for pilots and executives.
That is so interesting. I've just made a video for tomorrow about the Milgauss, okay? And the references for the Milgauss, it goes 6543, which was the one with the turning bezel, the really cool, like honeycomb dial. And then there was the 6541, which came after it, a smaller reference number that had a flat bezel. And you just mentioned 6542. That was the one in between, and this was all in the 50s. So there we go. That's your timeline. That's really weird, huh? Really weird. 6543, 6542 of a GMT. 6541. Yeah, this is a gem.
Yeah, 6542. Pan Am one with a white dial. So it's a Pepsi with a white dial. The albino.
That bezel is worth more than your house. How stupid is that? That looks like an original one too.
Tell us about this guy, Thomas.
Say again?
Tell us about this guy. What's the deal?
The albino.
In 1958, Pan Am commissioned this white dial, as a gift for pilots and executives in the company.
Wow.
So it was the albino dial.
Do we know how many?
Date window, man. Look how cool
I
that
don't
is.
know how many were made. No.
No, there's so few. They were probably a batch order of like 20 or something, daft.
Yeah, it's like they took the red date window from the roulette Datejust, the white dial from the Explorer, the GMT bezel, and put it on a Jubilee bracelet and said, okay, that we have a new creation.
And this was like a 1954, Thomas. How old is this?
1958.
I think they were still using radium. Might be wrong. I don't know.
I'm not really a white dial guy, but this watch is just special, isn't it?
It's just out there. Yeah. I mean, I just wish the brands would pay more attention. If Tudor made this watch, white dial Pepsi GMT, in like a 58 case, that's me. Like I'm putting a deposit down on that.
Exactly.
You know?
Wow, that's
so nice.
And on a Jubilee as well.
I must give props to Glycine though for their, them doing the original rotating. Well, not original, but doing the rotating because they also, I think, Rolex also copied them for their Explorer 2 with that bezel. I think that I got a feeling that it just tells me. I just get a feeling that.
You can see the similarities there for sure.
Yeah. Hi, Bufaris. Good to see you. Thank you joining us.
Mahaba, Bufaris.
Yeah, it's a great piece.
This is one of the absolute grails of GMTs. This original Pan Am one, if you can get hold of it, the albino dial.
They're so rare. I mean, even if you could find one, it wouldn't be in such good nick as this. Really, like it's just the term rarity doesn't even apply to this thing. It's impossible to find one of these.
Yeah, it's sick.
Yeah, nice call, Thomas. I dig this. This is really
any idea of the value of one of these, Thomas? Any rough
I don't know.
I would venture a guess that this could go for €1 million.
Oh, here we go. The white albino Explorer has been sold for over $180,000.
No, that's an Explorer. That's an Explorer. An Explorer there.
Yeah.
A watch of this rarity, I would say, would go for at least $1 million at auction.
About $1 million?
If we think about mill subs, they fetch 180, 200, pretty easy. 200,000, pretty easy. But I mean, they're at least
But there's a
300
few
or
of
so
those.
good examples of mill subs out there today. This
Yeah.
is probably less than 50.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think easily. When you look at auction numbers, I think 1 million today would be pretty good. Probably more,
Because,
1.2.
I mean, I've got to admit, this might be even the first time I've ever seen this watch. Like it's, and that's sort of saying something. Like I've never seen it in a auction. I've never seen it anywhere really.
Yeah.
So that must be super, 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 super rare.
Yeah, they are specialists. You don't hear talk about them at all.
Fuck.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Maybe we'll see one of Watches and Wonders appear this year. Maybe Rolex will release one.
Man, if Tudor did this right with the beige loom that they've chosen with their Pro, Black Bay Pro, I'd be all over it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What a cool watch.
The Rolex never go backwards though. They never look back into the back catalog. That's the problem.
They have. Technically they have, because they have
they?
made a meteorite dial of this model. Meteorite dial Pepsi.
That's meteorite though. That's meteorite.
Yeah. But I mean they did pull from a white dial GMT from back in the day. But yeah, that's true. They would never go back to those classic proportions, no crown guards. Oh, it's just great. Imagine they did that. It's Tudor, you're our only hope.
Yeah, true. Tudor, the only
I
hope.
have to agree with you guys about the Tudor referencing. I would definitely hope that there's some kind of revival. And if they wanted, they could do one with patina. Because the albino that you've presented seems to be quite dated in its design. So putting a wee bit of patina might actually help to generate its like reinvention.
That's another thing. I mean, when you've got a white dial, a stark white dial, you need some beige just to break it up. Or else it's going to look like an Explorer 2, but it'll look too similar. And the worst thing you can do is to just add polished white plots on a white dial. It'll just disappear.
Yeah.
And it would look like a meteorite dial.
Yeah.
Instead of
I suppose the meteorite dial is their newer version of that.
Yeah.
Albino dial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great piece.
Well, I'm afraid I've run out of watches now. Well, see what Curtis has to say. My retirement watch in 2020 is my Steel Skydweller, the perfect airline captain's watch. I love this watch. The ring command bezel is just baller. Wears well on my big wrist and hand.
And I know he was chasing after a blue dial, sunburst blue dial, for such a long time. Couldn't get it. I think he settled on a two-tone. Superb watch. It actually looks great. Two-tone. It feels like set for purpose, you know.
Enjoy it and wear it in good health, Curtis. Absolutely, definitely. Yeah. So I've rinsed what I prepared, the watches I prepared for today. Sorry about that. No more to chat about, but
I've got one more, Thomas, to talk about. Just one more last one.
Sure. Definitely.
So this is this just came out, I think, this week or last week or something. So this is a re-edition of the Air Rain Type 20. They're calling this, I don't know, give me some help here, the Furtivity.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means, but you can see here, so that's obviously a Type 20. They've got a gunmetal gray DLC covering on the case. Similar dial color on the dial.
Looks fantastic.
This is the bomb, man. This watch is really, really cool.
These square lugs. This was a transition out of the 50s and the early 60s into something more 70s. Like immediately after this watch, they had the Type 21 that came out, and most Type 21s in this category would have that kind of lug design and case design. Very nice.
Yeah. This is a cool watch. About 40 mil. It's manual wind, so it's about 11 point something mil thick. You know, the dimensions are great. I think the color is different, so it's sort of funky, sort of cool. Just a cool piece.
That crown is awesome.
Bill says too long.
Too long. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the love to love? Let me see.
I would say probably like 49. True to form, true to history. To have some presence on the wrist. Let's see. 47.8. That's great. That's a good
not bad.
investment.
That's good. Yeah.
Look at that. It's under 11 mil. 10.85 mil.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
And manual wind. Yeah, that's
I like
great.
that. And I know I've been following Iran and their reissues and the pieces they've been doing. Quality watches. I mean, compared to the Matthew Tissot, this I'm sorry to say, Thomas, this one walks over Matthew Tissot when it comes to quality control and just getting that every last millimeter out. Yeah, they've nailed it. For my money, this would be the watch I would chase in the Type 20 category in that reissue space. Absolutely, Iran, they've nailed it. They've done some great ones.
Mason's just saying that he may have found an unworn Zin 903H2 while he's been browsing around on this stream. He's just contemplating.
Pull the trigger.
Buy it.
Yeah,
do it.
This is the one thing about watches that I've learned is that when you sit on one and you think for too long, it goes, and they just go, and you kick yourself when you think, wow.
And Chili Badger's just got over an hour left for work, and then he's got freedom till Tuesday, and then he can get to the pub. Nice one, Chili. Good one, my friend. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool piece. So, Mr.
So
B,
that's it. Yeah.
do you prefer that anthracite dial instead of just the standard, like, old-timey look?
I think because it's just something. It gives you something different. It's a different aesthetic. It's just I haven't seen that before. That's why it piqued my interest. I think it came up on my Instagram or something about a week ago, and I had to stop. I was like, what the hell? What's going on here? It was
really
the color scheme, that anthracite, and it just looked different. And I think that's what grabbed me. So yeah, really, really cool piece. That's why I started looking into them. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant stuff. So, thank you to everyone for joining us in the chat today, and thank you to our special guest this side, ID Guy. Yeah.
It's good being here. It was nice to just hop on for once in my life to actually sit down and chat for a bit.
You're welcome to join us anytime, my friend. You're welcome to.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me and letting me speak like a million words a second.
It's our pleasure. It would be a
pleasure
for you to join us more often.
It's great to meet you, ID Guy. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, James. Yeah. I'm sure we'll chat backstage a bit after the show, but this was awesome.
Yeah. You're welcome to join us anytime. Yeah.
Pleasure meeting.
Yeah. Hope you all have a great week, everyone. And has anyone got anything left to say?
New Milgauss video coming out tomorrow. Self-promotion. There we go. Shameless plug.
Yes, absolutely. Check out
Congratulations.
No, I've got nothing.
Yeah.
This was fun.
You should be subscribed.
Pilot Watches. That was really good fun.
And
nice. I like these themes.
Yeah, check it. If you're not subscribed, you should be subscribed to ID Guy's channel. And check out his new video that will be dropping tomorrow. Milgauss. I love my Milgauss.
Looking forward to it, yeah.
Rolex.
Thank you, gents.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, fun one. And we'll see you next time. Take care.
Thank you, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone. See you next time.